Hi, teachers. Welcome to the Music Teacher Mastermind podcast, where teachers come together to have a mini mastermind to discuss a copy. That is a challenge, opportunity, problem, or inspiration. My name is Jaclyn Rosick. You can call me Jackie, and I will be your facilitator. Now, if you have been listening to my new little podcast, you've probably noticed that I like to have one or two teachers on at once. I personally love talking to other teachers and digging deep into their teacher brains. I consider music teachers to be some of the most creative and passionate people I know, and talking to all of you is one of my very favorite things. So doing a solo episode like I will be doing today and next week was the kind of thing that was really never on my radar. However, I am excited to share with you all my history with performance classes for my private lesson students. And next week, I will be sharing my experience with converting 3/4 of my studio from private lessons to group lessons. But before I jump in, I want you to know that if you are thinking about fall and you're looking for some teacher opportunities, stick with me to the end. I have some teachery stuff, some teachery things to share with you. But first, I will talk performance classes. Okay, teachers, thank you so much for joining me today. My copy is not a challenge. I don't think. It could be a challenge for some, I think, but it's more of an opportunity. And it's another way to solve some problems. And it could be some inspiration for some of you. And that is on performance classes for your private lesson students. Now, I have a studio of about 45 students. Some of them are private lesson students and some of them are group lesson students. But the group thing, regular group lessons, like weekly group lessons is their main format, that's still pretty new for me. But performance classes for private lesson students, I've been doing that for well over a decade. And so I want to share about that today because I'm going to keep doing it for the private lesson students that I still have. So I love me some performance classes, okay? I just think they are phenomenal. And I think if a teacher is not doing performance classes, you might be missing out. I mean, you got to at least try this, okay? No judgment if you don't, but maybe give it some consideration. And I'll tell you why. First of all, there are so many opportunities to fit in some of the extras that you do not normally have the chance to do in private lessons. So you have ensemble practice, you get practice performing in front of others, you're engaging with other students and musicians, and it's an opportunity to see what others are working on. You know, some students, I think they really underestimate themselves, right? They don't think they're that great. And then they go to a performance class and they're like, oh, well, these kids are just like me. And it can be a real confidence booster. They get to play group games and more. Also, if your studio is having something that you feel like is lacking, maybe your students could be doing better at rhythm, or maybe they could be doing better, I don't know, in some theory aspect. This is a great opportunity to address it as a group, and then they can have fun learning it together. And if they have fun learning it together, they're most likely to implement it and remember it. Second, students practice for performance classes. I really believe that students often practice even more for a performance class than a recital because they know they will be in a more intimate setting with their peers. It's like this good, healthy form of peer pressure. And then it also gives them a chance to see maybe some spots that they need to work on. Maybe they're really confident with a section and they have only focused on the problem section, right? And then they go to perform it and they realize that they're great at the problem section because they've been practicing it, but they totally flaked on the part that they were confident in, if that makes sense. So I think it's a really, really good opportunity for them. Third, it actually helps you get a break as a teacher. Am I right? I mean, think about those Monday holidays, those stubborn Monday holidays. I don't know if you teach before Labor Day or after Labor Day. I always, the week of Labor Day, that's performance class week. And usually it's the second week of lessons that we're back into. And they're like, we already have a class. And yep, we do. I used to do them during Thanksgiving. I would do them on that Monday and Tuesday so that I didn't have to miss a week. I always have done them before performances. And Anyway, I'll get more to that. But those are just 3 of the reasons why I love performance classes. There are so many other benefits, and I personally could go on and on and on, but I'll just stick in that arena for today. So that brings us the question, what exactly is a performance class and how is it different from a master class? Honestly, I think all of our definitions could vary from teacher to teacher. The way I see it, a master class is where students perform for one another and there is a constructive critique in front of the class from either the teacher or even from other students. A performance class is also a setting in which the students can play for one another and it's a little less formal. So maybe there is little to no critiques, maybe just public praise, and the teacher can more make a note of what needs worked on privately in a lesson. Students can practice their bows in front of one another, how to listen patiently, how to observe the music listening for elements like dynamics, articulation, mood, meter, and more. What I really love is that they're often surprised at sections where they may have a little mess up or even how nervous they might get. It's a bit of a wake up call for them before an actual performance. So, in the end, does it really matter the official title? That's up to you as the teacher. It really doesn't matter to me. In this podcast, though, I will be referring to it as performance classes. Okay. So, how do I structure them in the schedule? That seems to be a very popular question that I get. So, here's the thing, I used to only have 2 recitals a year. So, I only had 2 performance classes a year. I like to have a buffer between the performance class and the actual recital. So I would schedule the performance class 2 weeks before the recital so that I had another week in between where I could meet with the student one-on-one. That way we could discuss how things went in class and I can monitor any last minute details. In the past, I would have a holiday recital and a spring recital, like I said, so just 2, which worked great for me at the time because my own kids were wee little people, made my life a little easier. And on my studio door, there would be a list of the available times, and I would list 6 spots in each class. I even taped a pen to the door so the parents would have no excuse as to not sign up their kids. Then they would just sign up their kid for whatever time worked best. They would also look at who else had signed up in the class in case some of the students knew each other or whatever. So this worked really, really well at the time. These days, I schedule a whole lot more. We still do the performance classes before performances, but now they are almost a monthly occurrence. Let me explain. So about now, I'm collecting all of the student schedules. So what I do is I get them all scheduled, and then I take another look and I see, okay, who can come on similar days and similar times? I match their personalities and ages as best as I can. And then that becomes their time and day for their monthly or quarterly performance class for whatever kind of schedule I'm doing that year. So maybe Sally has a lesson on Monday at 5, and that is a regular weekly lesson. But during the weeks of performance class, she will always be on Wednesdays at 6. And the parents know ahead of time these performance classes are going to be, I don't know, I'm throwing out random dates, but September 8th and maybe December 4th and then February, whatever. So they know the whole yearly schedule and when they're going to have these unique weeks of a different time and day. It actually keeps it more simple for the parents to keep track by knowing that time and day, as well as giving them plenty of notice for when the classes are. I personally like the classes to only fall on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. It helps with the Monday holiday weeks, and it gives me a little bit of a longer weekend. Also, if you use something like My Music Staff or Fonz or Teacher Zone, then you can set up reminders for the parents a few days before to help them keep track. As a side note, these are non-negotiable in my studio and there are no makeups. These classes are in lieu of lessons and that is that. If you have never done performance classes and you decide to implement them, you can probably expect a little bit of pushback from some parents. But what I like to say over and over again, this is your business and it is your studio. You are the professional and people are coming to you for your expertise. So if they need to switch maybe a class here and there in the schedule time to time, that's fine. I'm sure that, you can make that work between you guys. But once you make it clear that this is part of your studio, the pushback will eventually stop and they'll know what to expect. I'm speaking from experience, total experience here. All right. So what does a class look like? Well, if we have a performance coming up, I keep it as a tried and true quote unquote performance class. Okay. So depending on the age, I usually have something set out for them to work on with their hands as they come in. Sometimes the beginning of class is a little awkward for them, even if they know one another. So I like for them to have something in front of them in case they need some time to settle. So coloring sheets, word searches, find the symbols, lots of crayons, colored pencils, just some kind of activity that they can focus on instead of just sitting there and awkwardly staring at one another, because you and I know that happens. I also like to have some music playing on in the background, since personally I am just a weirdo about silence. I can't do it. So I have some nice music coming on when they come in, and I try to create a really positive, exciting atmosphere for them to be comfortable. So once everyone has piled in, I do an icebreaker. 2 truths and a lie is always fun. And I also use a pack of would you rather cards. You can find these all over the place. I believe that Music Education Resources has some stuff that you can print off at home. You can Google some, you can make up your own. My son has an actual pack of these that I tend to borrow frequently. I really recommend never ignoring an icebreaker. You really should make some time for this. It doesn't matter how many times you have had these classes, the students could be nervous enough. Maybe they just had a bad day, and some are already starting to compare themselves. I like them to know that we are among friends and that it is a space where they are valued and welcomed, and it's all about the music. Okay, now for the good stuff. Listening sheets. I love Amy Chaplin's visual listening guide for groups. It's a freebie. It is a visual listening guide. Well, I'll talk about it here in a second. And yes, I will put the link in the show notes. So it gives cues for discussing meter, tonality, dynamics, articulation, tempo, and mood. It has this super cute cloud bubble thingamajiggy, and you can just draw the mood of the piece in the cloud bubble. So much fun. She puts in these animals for tempo that have become legendary in my studio. I mean, the discussion about these animals with tempo can never be ignored. It doesn't matter what age of the class. We have to talk about these. We always have to take a moment to talk about each animal in depth, and the students remember them. Example, she uses a bear for moderato, and no joke, I've had students later on in lessons see that and they're like, oh, what does that mean? Oh, wait, it's the bear. And then their kids are awesome. I love them. Anyway, the other beauty about these listening sheets is that you don't have to use all of them. I mean, again, it's your performance class, right? So for some younger classes, I will say today we are only looking at our louds and our softs, as well as the ice skater for legato and the popcorn for staccato. And that's it. Then for my high schoolers, they have to use the proper lingo, and we discuss everything. Now, for the actual performances, in my studio, students practice introducing themselves, performing with a focus. We usually focus on flow, and then a proper bow. The other students have a dry erase marker with their laminated listening sheets, and they are required to note what they hear. In the meantime, on my end, I am making quick little private notes on what to discuss at the next week's lesson, one-on-one with a performer, about how they did in class. After the performer is done, they go back to their seats and we do a quick sharing of what we heard. This is really great because it's teaching the kids how to observe, listen, and appreciate the music being played. It's also great because the performers can hear from other kids if their dynamics are strong enough, if those staccatos they have been so focused on are coming through, all that kind of good stuff. So it's really great feedback for them. Afterwards, we always play a game. Now, this does get tricky with my high schoolers because the discussions over the listening becomes quite in depth, and it usually takes most of the time that we have. We spend an hour on these. I didn't add that at the beginning. I should have added that at the beginning. My performance classes are an hour. Anyway, we always try to end with a game. My students love musical Uno. It's super fun. I will say sometimes I feel like there's not a ton of musical education going on with these Uno cards, but they are fun. You can find some teacher packs on Teacher Pay Teachers. There's a couple of Uno games on there. We also play Go Fish with my own homemade cards. So I take just any kind of playing cards and I use these little sticker doohickey things and I make my own cards. I should probably write a blog about that sometime. But the absolute favorite amongst all ages is the classic Bang game from Joy Morin's blog. I think she did this blog like 12, 13 years ago. And it is just a classic in my studio. They love it. So again, I'll put that in the show notes. I should probably include, I do have some piano safari animal rhythms. If you use them, I'll upload them to my website and put those in the show notes as well. And that's it for a typical performance in my studio. Okay, so what about the other classes that I have? So I have the classes before a performance, but then I also have classes that are right kind of randomly in the middle of nothing. Example, the week of Labor Day. What on earth are the kids doing then? So I usually do an ensemble class during that week. So what I do is they come in and I give students easy copies of their level of a short piece and I have them take a moment to practice on their own keyboards. Now I have a upright piano with a muffler pedal and then I have 3 keyboards with headphones. So I can easily fit 4 students at a piano. Sometimes what I will do is I'll give 2 students the same part and I'll have them work on it together at a keyboard. So if I have maybe 6 or 7 students in a performance class, I'll pair them up. So they actually are learning it together and helping one another, which is really, really pretty cool. And it's a lot of fun to watch. And then I'm like, all right, guys, we're going to do it together. Let's try it. And we do. Usually it's a nice hot mess at first, but after a few more tries, they are pretty amazed at what happens. So some ensembles that I love are At the Gym by Susan Staples Bell. This is another free resource that I will put in the show notes. And then I've found some really great resources on Nicola Canton's Vibrant Music Teaching membership. She's got some good stuff on there. So then, of course, I always play a game. And that's usually it. I mean, it takes up the whole time. It's a great hour of learning and just working together. So those are great. But maybe instead of an ensemble class, you could also do a duet class. Maybe just give all the students duets and they go and work on their parts together. Or, students can be preparing their part prior to the class with you, and then they get to try out the duet live with the other student in class. If prepped and encouraged, this could actually create lots of giggles and fun where students can see that mess ups and fumbles are simply a part of the process and they are in no way negative. Another class I love is my happy birthday class. So all through January, when they come back from break, we practice on creating our own arrangements of a happy birthday using yet again, another Amy Jaclyn resource, which is a packet walking students through how to go about this. Then in February, I host a huge birthday party week. I decorate, we have balloons, we have cake, we have birthday games, and we all play our own happy birthdays for one another. And a big shout out real quick to Christina Whitlock for giving me this idea a few years ago. And she actually led me to Amy's site for the resource. On my website, I have created some fun printouts for the birthday idea that are available as well that you can check out. How many classes you hold a year and what kind of format is completely up to you. Ask yourself what fits best with your studio goals. Maybe what elements do you think could use a little pick-me-up? Is it performance anxiety? Are you finding a lack of expression in your performers? Could your students be a little bit more strong in their rhythm? Think about your own goals and allow any of your classes to just follow suit. And then be open to each year being different because the sky is the limit. And that, my dear, lovely and amazing music and piano teachery people, is how I like to do my performance classes. These allow me to have a 4-day weekend to help prevent my own teacher burnout. and it allows more family time, all while avoiding crediting or dealing with makeups for those Monday holidays. I hope this gives you some ideas on how to schedule, how to lesson plan, and how to enjoy creating and performing with your students. I'm curious. I want to know how many of you have performance classes. I know you're out there doing them because I see lots of fun videos throughout the year on Instagram, and there's so many creative ways of doing this. So let me know, how often do you do them? Is your format similar to mine? Tell me. You can shoot me an email at Jaclyn@pianocats.com. That's Jaclyn, spelled Jaclyn at pianocats with a K. And while you're at it, let me know anything else that's on your mind. Anything else that maybe is making you feel a little excited about the upcoming year, maybe making you feel a little ick about the upcoming year. I want to know. That would be your copy. And that's what I want to know, guys. I want to know, what is your copy? Alrighty, guys, thank you so much for listening. I am so excited for the upcoming fall schedule and all the performance classes that I'm already thinking about and planning. Another exciting fact about fall is that I will be opening up some slots for teacher consultations as well as a new mastermind. So teacher burnout, admin hours, and simply not feeling like you're getting a return on your hard work are real issues in the piano teacher world. Struggling with students, a need for new ideas, all that stuff. The mastermind is for all of it. So if you're interested, let's set up a call and see if it would be the right fit for you. And with that, stay tuned for next week. I will be sharing my experience of how I converted 3/4 of my own piano studio to group lessons. In the meantime, keep teaching, keep practicing, and keep loving. Take care.